As the mistress of the Marquis household, for the honor of the family and the future of the legitimate heir, I managed with strict discipline. I even spent my dowry to uphold the household's glory. Yet the Marquis secretly supported the Crown Prince's claim to the throne. In the end, he failed, and the entire household was confiscated and exiled to the harsh frontier. In that land of bitter frost, the last words I heard were, "There is no share of food left for you." Starving to the brink of death, I was thrown into the cattle shed, perishing in cold and hunger. Reborn again, this time I will help you bring this Marquis household to ruin. The young master wants to marry a village girl. Then marry her. Bring in 2 concubines as well. The old madam weeps to return to her hometown. Go. Servants, prepare the carriage and send her off at once. The Marquis drinks flower wine. Good. Let beauties be brought into the house for him to enjoy. But why is it, when I complied with you all and tore the household down until not a wall was left standing, that each of you now looks so aggrieved? My name is Lin Yuan-jun. At 16 I married into the Marquis household, holding the seat of mistress for 20 years. Never had I thought I would die so wretchedly. The icy wind cut through the cattle shed, numbing my body until I could feel nothing. My stomach was empty, not a single grain of rice remained. I struggled to part my lips, voice faint as I begged. Please, just a bite of rice. Before me stood the son I had cherished with all my heart, yet before my death, I heard him call another woman mother. Mother, surely that Lin woman will not survive the night. To live on is only a waste of food. You are the one who carried me 10 months. That woman bore only a daughter, yet she sat as mistress, enjoying splendor for 20 years. Now, letting her starve is but paying back the debt owed to the Liu family. So, he was never my own flesh and blood. So my true child had long been switched. My whole life, I had erred so miserably. But heaven has eyes, I have been reborn. When I opened my eyes again, the Marquis residence was bright with lanterns, filled with guests and bustling with noise. I remembered, today was the capping ceremony of my son, Liu Yuanqiu. In my past life, I was the daughter of the wealthiest merchant in Jiangnan. With my natal family's support, my early years in marriage had been smooth. But, from this day onward, everything changed. At his coming-of-age ceremony, before countless officials and guests, my once obedient son brought forward a village girl named Song Ruer, insisting he would marry her. I opposed him, not because of her humble birth, but for the sake of his future prospects. Who would have thought, he threatened me with death, and when I would not yield, he left the house altogether. The joyous feast turned into a farce. All the guests condemned me, saying I was tearing apart young lovers, domineering, forcing my son into a cage. I became, in the eyes of the world, a bitter, harsh mother. Months later, he supported the swelling belly of Song Ruer, kneeling before the gates of the Marquis household, begging me to let them wed. My pride was trampled mercilessly. I clenched my teeth, swallowing the humiliation, and brought that bride into the residence. From then on, Song Ruer, the concubines, and the old madam formed a faction, suppressing me in every way. Though I was the mistress of the Marquis household, I was no different from an outcast, isolated and powerless. All because I had given my heart to the household. In the end I was left to starve to death in the cattle shed. I could not accept it. Now, I have been reborn. The same day, the same moment. The voice of a servant boy carried over. Madam, the guests have arrived. The Marquis invites you to the front hall. I drew a deep breath, lifted my skirt, and stepped out. In my past life I died of hunger and shame. In this life, I will live another way. The front hall was crowded with guests. Concubine 2 wore her hair in a flirtatious style, standing behind the Marquis. Though past 30, she still feigned a coy, delicate air. The Marquis doted on her to the point that even on such an important occasion he allowed a concubine to appear, utterly disregarding my dignity. I ignored her presence, walked straight to the mistress's seat, and sat down. After the formalities, what was destined came to pass. Lu Yuanqiu again led Song Ruer forward, kneeling before me, delivering a long, impassioned plea. Ruer may not be from a noble family, but she is gentle in nature and understands propriety. I beg Mother to grant us your blessing. Understands propriety. How laughable. To write her own name legibly is already the extent of her literacy. The Marquis, hearing this, smashed a teacup, shouting, "Absurd!" Then, as always, he turned his head toward me. This was his familiar style: break a cup, curse a few words to show his stance, then sit back, waiting for me to take over. When all was settled, he would turn to his son and say, "Your mother wished it so, I could do nothing." Thus, in the eyes of the household, I became the tyrant, the harsh one. Even Lu Yuanqiu grew to resent me, while he hid behind me and played the good man. Seeing me remain silent, Lu Yuanqiu grew anxious. If Mother does not agree, then this son has no wish to live. The Marquis panicked, fumbling for another teacup to smash, but his pudgy hand found none, because I was still holding the cup, sipping calmly. I spoke slowly. "Who said I would not agree? You are my own flesh and blood, of course I wish you happiness. My son is kind-hearted, disregarding Song Ruer's humble origins. Then let an auspicious date be chosen, and marry her into the household. The 2 servant girls raised for you in the residence are also of age, let them be wed alongside her. As your mother, I will see to a grand celebration." The Marquis gaped, speechless. He knew full well that taking a wife of no background would have Yuanqiu's future prospects. And to take 2 concubines before even attempting the examinations, how could there be any hope left for officialdom? Behind him, concubine 2 was more flustered than he, clutching at his sleeve. Yet before so many guests, the Marquis could not say a word. Or perhaps, being accustomed to shirking responsibility, he had no idea what to do, so he kept silent. Lu Yuanqiu beamed, dragging Song Ruer down to kowtow. "Thank you, Mother, for granting your blessing. To play the good man, anyone can do that. In the past, I fretted over his future, exhausting myself. But now, what does the fate of this wolf cub have to do with me?" News spread across the capital. The legitimate son of the Marquis household was soon to wed. "That Lin woman, how useless you are." My mother-in-law, that Zhang woman, stormed straight into my chambers, trailed by concubine 2 with her pear blossom in the rain act, tears brimming. "You've let a village wench step openly through the main gates. As mistress of the Marquis household, is this how you govern the family? Truly, born of a merchant family, no breeding at all, unfit to stand at the table." I lifted a chestnut cake, took a leisurely bite, and chewed slowly. Despise me for being a merchant's daughter, do you? Yet when you spent my money, I heard no complaints. Always so eager to wield the title of mistress of the household to bind me in chains, too bad, you no longer have that power over me. Seeing my calm indifference, that Zhang woman glared and barked. That Lin woman. But after a few seconds of silence, her tone softened, turning conciliatory. Song Ruer might be acceptable as a concubine, but how can she be the principal wife? She can scarcely recognize a few characters. If the noble families of the capital hear of this, they will laugh at the Marquis household. Outsiders will say you failed to teach your son properly. I replied coolly. Mother, Yuanqiu wishes to marry her, even threatening me with death. I truly have no other choice. As for outside reputation, I care nothing for it, the life of the heir is what matters most. In my past life, had she not sweet-talked Lu Yuanqiu, then turned to reproach me for being narrow-minded, urging me to admit Song Ruer into the household. The next morning, a mama from my mother-in-law's courtyard hurried in to report. Madam. Something has happened. The old madam says she wants to return to her native home in Duyang. Her luggage is all packed already. The same trick again. Whenever something displeased her, she would pack her things and wail. I am old now, an eyesore to others. The troubles of this household are beyond me. Better not to see, better not to hear. In my past life, fearful of being branded a wife cast aside, I always rushed in panic to apologize, bowing my head, offering jewels and silver to coax her back into cheer. But in this life, things are different. Lulu, come here, I called, my voice even. The old madam wishes to return home. See that more food is prepared for the journey. The road is long, we must not let mother go hungry. Clothes and jewelry must also be packed in full, so she will not suffer the cold. Tell the steward to prepare the carriage at once. Better to set out early, so mother will not be wearied. On the road out of the capital, the Marquis himself chased after her, stopping the carriage, kneeling, kowtowing, begging to bring her back. When they returned, I was calmly studying a painting. Not long after, a servant from Yuencho's courtyard came rushing in. Madam, quickly come. The Marquis is about to beat the young master to death. When I arrived, the Marquis was swinging a whip over the boy kneeling on the ground. The posture was fierce, raising the lash high, but when it came down, the force was half gone. He roared. I'll thrash this unfilial wretch to death. Do you mean to anger your grandmother into her grave? So many noble daughters have been chosen for you, yet you insist on defying your parents. Lu Yuancho straightened his back, replying firmly. This son will marry no one but Song Ruer. Concubine 2 wailed, collapsing to the side, fluttering her handkerchief. Don't beat him, Marquis, please don't beat him. The moment I entered, she crawled to me, kneeling by my hem, choking on her sobs. Madam, Yuancho cannot be persuaded. Perhaps give the Song family some silver, let them take the girl away. At this, the Marquis swung his whip even slower, his eyes flicking toward me. I knew at once. It was all a play, staged for my benefit, the aim nothing more than to force me to spend money to send Song Ruer away. I took a sip of tea, my tone light. My son has finally found someone he loves. Why should I separate them? Scholar, farmer, artisan, merchant. I am the daughter of a merchant, while Miss Song comes from a farming family. In terms of status, she even stands above me. How then is she unworthy of the Marquis household? Seeing I would not yield, the Marquis ground his teeth, huffing coldly, striking harder. He was wagering that I could not bear to watch my son beaten. I signaled to Lulu to bring a chair, set out a tea table, and I sat, drinking leisurely as I watched. Strike him, go on. A father's hand hurts his own child most. Concubine 2 sobbed to the point of fainting, crawling once more to clutch at my skirt, her voice trembling. Madam, you cannot simply stand by and watch. I lifted my eyes, answering faintly. And what is wrong with that? A wife follows her husband. In this household, the Marquis is heaven. Whoever he wishes to strike, let him strike. At my words, the Marquis froze mid-blow. I stifled a yawn, bored. Well, Marquis, will you keep beating him? If not, I'll return for my afternoon rest. The Marquis stared at me, stunned, as though he no longer recognized me. That Lin woman. How are you teaching our son? I answered evenly. Then let us divorce. Divorce. You must be dreaming. The Marquis flushed red as a swollen pufferfish, flung down the whip, and stormed off choking with rage. How could he ever agree to a divorce? Before I married into this household, the servants often went unpaid. It was I who managed diligently, pouring in my dowry to keep things afloat, until the meager fortune of the Liu family grew, making the Marquis residence resplendent, its people basking in luxury. He may dislike me, but he could never let go of this comfort. Returning to my courtyard, I found the 2 bed servants kneeling outside, weeping miserably. I ordered them brought inside, then told Lulu to fetch several spring palace paintings, those most detailed in the arts of the bedchamber, and hand them over with instructions. Take these, study them carefully, and learn properly. The young master was about to marry. The old madam staged her daily threats of returning to her hometown. The entire Marquis household was in chaos, chickens flying, dogs jumping. For the sole heir's wedding, of course, they spared no expense. If the household accounts were lacking, they simply wrote up debts. As for me, I had more important matters. I arranged for Lulu's elder brother to track down the midwife who had delivered my child all those years ago. I recalled, it was 3 years after I entered the Marquis household that I bore a son, when concubine 2 had not yet entered. To show importance, the old madam deliberately summoned a midwife from her native Duyang. Clearly, the switch of my child had been arranged from the very start. Unconcerned with the household, I spent my days at leisure. I had Lulu fetch a few popular storybooks from town, brew pre-rain dragon well tea sent by my natal family, and read with me in calm delight. In my past life, on the road to exile, Lulu had stripped off her heavy garments to wrap me, freezing herself to death along the way. In this life, I would never allow her to suffer such wrongs again. A few days later, the Marquis household grandly welcomed Song Ruer through its gates. Lu Yuancho, astride a tall stallion, was pale as a corpse, drawing whispers from onlookers. The groom looked anything but healthy. Of course he wasn't, his backside had been beaten raw by the Marquis. The wounds hadn't healed, every jolt of the horse sent a wave of pain, his forehead beating with cold sweat. At the wedding banquet, the old madam, the Marquis, and concubine 2 all looked as though attending a funeral. It was laughable. I tugged Lulu to sit and enjoy the feast. The 8 treasure duck was exquisite, the braised chicken superb. After all, the dishes were ordered on the Marquis household's credit. It would be a waste not to savor them. The next day, the bride Song Ruer appeared, eyes red as she offered tea. The 2 concubines beside her, however, glowed with rosy cheeks, faces radiant as if touched by spring breezes. After they left, Lulu whispered in my ear. "Madam, last night the young master was too injured, too sore to consummate." But those 2 concubines, under the pretext of applying medicine, led him away. Somehow, they managed without his effort, pleasing him until he fell asleep, exhausted, in a side room. Good. Those 2 girls have potential. Self-taught even, learning never has an end. I immediately sent men to the pleasure quarter to hire the finest instructor, to personally train them further. Song Ruer had intended to cry her grievances before me. Her eyes glistened, her manner hesitant and shy. "Mother, I have something, but I don't know how to say it." "Then don't." Leaving her that, I returned to my chambers, serenely drinking tea and reading. Later, a servant reported that Song Ruer had sobbed to the old madam and concubine 2 the entire morning. When leaving, the old madam clutched her hand, reluctant to let go, while even her own daughter, Lu Yunjin, rolled her eyes in disdain. That night, the old madam summoned me. She opened with, "Ruer's natal family is weak, unlike yours. But now she is the young mistress of the Lu family. Her jewelry and attire must not be too plain. This concerns the dignity of the household." I nodded earnestly, yes, you are absolutely right. She went on. "In the coming days, take Ruer to Jinhua Hall to select clothing and ornaments. Yuncan is soon to be engaged as well, take her along, choose well for both." How clever of her. Jinhua Hall was the most luxurious shop in the capital. A single hairpin there cost no less than 100 taels. But the household accounts of the Marquis residence held not even 600 taels, insufficient to buy a single complete set of head ornaments for Song Ruer. To put it plainly, they wanted me to spend from my own purse to decorate the Lu family's face. Dream on. I kept my expression calm, obediently nodding. The moment we stepped into Jinhua Hall, shopkeeper's son welcomed us with a beaming smile, quickly presenting the sample catalogs of jewelry. "These are all the newest designs." Song Ruer and Lu Yunjin were enraptured, gazing as though they wished to take everything home. I smiled and said, "Though these designs are novel, the gems used are hardly of the highest grade. I know your shop keeps treasures in reserve. Why not bring them out?" At once, shopkeeper's son's face lit up. He bellowed his assent and ordered attendants to bring forth dozens of exquisite pieces. Emerald bangles gleamed green, a sapphire as large as a quail's egg, pearl necklaces strung thick as snow. Song Ruer and Lu Yunjin gaped, mouths hanging open. I told them, smiling, choose whatever you like. The old madam instructed me personally. Of course we cannot let you suffer any slight. Neither had ever witnessed such a spectacle. Their faces flushed, eyes dazzled, they selected piece after piece until they were dizzy with delight. By the time we left, clothing and jewelry filled half a carriage. The tally came to 40,000 taels, enough to buy 1,000 acres of fine farmland. The Marquis household had long enjoyed the privilege of settling debts with Jinhua Hall once a year. But this time the sum was staggering. Shopkeeper's son hesitated. I soothed him at once. No need to worry. We are the Marquis household. The Marquis still holds office in court. Would we run away? At month's end, shopkeeper's son hurried to the residence to collect payment. Yet upon entry, he discovered even debt collection required queuing. Ahead of him stood shopkeepers from the great taverns, the silk merchants, the apothecaries. I instructed them to submit their ledgers, invited them to tea, and let them wait. Murmurs swelled. When accounts were compared, faces blanched. The Marquis household owed more than 60,000 taels, yet the Marquis's annual stipend was a mere 2,000. Cold sweat broke across their brows. I carried the debt list into the study, where the Marquis was practicing calligraphy. At the sight of the accounts, he roared. That Lin woman. What kind of management is this, to let expenses run so wild? I smiled and reminded him. Marquis, look closely. Every tael was spent at your and the old madam's command, wedding for Yuancho, finery for the new young mistress, dowry for the younger sister. I did not spend a single coin for myself. Knowing his guilt, his face burned. He shouted anyway. Managing the household is your duty. Handle it yourself. Good. Those words, handle it yourself, were nothing but an unspoken order for me to use my dowry. When I was wed, the bridal procession stretched 10 miles, the dowry list longer than a man was tall, lands, shops, gold, jewels beyond counting. Skilled in commerce, I had already multiplied that fortune many times over. I was more than capable of settling this debt. Very well, Marquis. I shall handle it myself. Pleased, he nodded. I told the shopkeepers I would repay in full within 2 days. Then I summoned the steward to inventory the Marquis household's assets. The accounts showed silver drained dry, but outside there remained 7 shops, over 1,000 acres of fertile land, 2 estates, and a hot spring villa, all ancestral holdings. I warned him to keep silent, and ordered every deed and title deed taken to Jinman Hall for pawn. The steward paled, stammering. Jinman Hall is usury. They say the true master behind it is the crown prince. To redeem them later will be near impossible. I answered coolly. The money is urgent. Do as I say. No matter how they press the price, as long as silver comes in, it is enough. The next day, the steward had sold off the entire ancestral property, securing 200,000 taels. After settling all debts, nearly 140,000 remained. Silver should be used where it counts. I summoned Lu Yuancho's 2 concubines and asked after their lessons. They were more alluring than ever, waist supple, gestures brimming with seduction. They reported cheerfully that their teacher was diligent, but the lessons repeated, lacking freshness. Learning never ends. Knowledge has no limits. With a generous wave of my hand, I granted them 10,000 taels, telling them to seek their own masters, prepare all the study materials they needed. If my son could eat well and live in luxury, there was no reason the Marquis should keep clinging to concubine 2 alone. I sent word to Minister of Revenue, Lord Wang, inviting the Marquis to Xuanyu Tower for pleasure, adding a lavish gift. That official was both greedy and lustful, yet a boon companion of the Marquis. As expected, within days a servant came rushing. Madam, disaster. The Marquis has been detained at Xuanyu Tower. So it was, he had spent 2 whole days there, gambling away thousands of taels and falling for a courtesan. For her sake, he had brawled with the guards of Xuanyu Tower, even declaring openly he wished to redeem her. But once he had slept with her, the brothel, knowing the Marquis household was wealthy, would hardly let such a chance for extortion pass. If money was not paid, the injured guards could lie abed for a year, dragging the Marquis to court in scandal. The old madam, heart aching for her son, kicked concubine 2 aside and ordered me. That Lin woman. I don't care how you do it, bring the Marquis back at once. How? With money, of course. I hurried to Xuanyu Tower. There lay the Marquis, flushed with wine, sprawled on the courtesan's bed, not yet sober. The girl herself, in disheveled silks, alluring and delicate, rose lazily to greet me with a soft bow. Truly, she was a rare beauty. I gestured, and Lulu produced the silver notes to redeem her. She was freed, yet 2 companions lingered, clinging to the doorway, wiping tears in silence. Ah, I had always been weak to a beauty's tears. Madam, how much for those 2 as well? For just 10,000 more, you may take all 3, the mistress of the house replied. Lulu, pay them. Bring them all. The Marquis residence is large enough to keep them. Concubine 2 had secretly followed. She collapsed to her knees, covering her face, sobbing. Madam, you cannot do this. The household's reputation will be ruined. I kicked her aside. Stop spoiling the Marquis's pleasure. He has labored for decades. What is wrong if he now enjoys the company of confidants? So I returned in triumph, leading 3 carriages, carrying the Marquis and 3 beauties straight into the residence. On the road, when passers-by asked, I smiled and replied cheerfully. The Marquis has taken 3 new concubines. When he sobered, the Marquis found 3 enchanting women kneeling at his bedside. Staring blankly, he muttered. How could I have been so muddle-headed? I stepped forward to soothe him. Marquis, it is merely taking concubines. In this capital, what noble house does not keep several? For more than 10 years you've upheld the virtue of 1 wife, 1 concubine. Is it not time to add others, to secure heirs? At this, some of the bewilderment in his eyes cleared. He nodded slowly. My lady is truly virtuous. But this must not spread. If it were known I married courtesans, my colleagues would surely mock me. I smiled gently, nodding in assent. Pity then, that the entire capital already knew the Marquis had brought 3 courtesans home. Just then, concubine 2 burst into the chamber, throwing herself at his bedside, weeping bitterly. Marquis. 3 concubines is too many. How can you endure it? Keep only 1, send the other 2 away. Endure it. For a man, to be told he cannot endure, such an insult could never be admitted. I cut in at once. If the Marquis truly cannot bear it, then allow me to take some travel money and send 2 of them away. Nonsense. Once they've entered the household, none shall leave. The Marquis bellowed, furious. How could a man confess his inadequacy? He shoved concubine 2 hard to the ground. Moments ago she had been kneeling in tears, now she lay sprawled, still sobbing. The Marquis did not spare her a glance, his face twisted with disgust. In my past life, because I barred the gates against other women, she alone monopolized his favor, dressing and spending no less than a wife, her days sweet and indulgent. Now, with 3 more rivals, let them fight for favor as they please. When the old madam heard, she summoned me to account. The moment I stepped into her chamber, a teacup came hurtling to shatter at my feet. That Lin woman. What kind of mistress are you, to allow the Marquis such outrageous conduct? How can I show my face to anyone now? How can I walk outside again? In my past life, the old madam had not spoken so. Back then, she urged me time and again to bring concubines into the household for the Marquis. Now that he truly had concubines, she acted as though aggrieved. But she knew the matter could not be undone. Better then to use it as pretext to force my concession. Set aside the Marquis' affairs for now. What matters is Yunsun's marriage. You must take it to heart, she cannot be slighted, or the in-laws will look down on her. Take it to heart meant one thing, spend heavily. No matter. The Marquis household was wealthy, it could spend. I nodded, meek and obedient. Of course, I shall see my sister married in splendor. Lu Yunjin's fiancé was Li Jing, the newly appointed first-rank scholar, most favored by the emperor. In my past life, I had opposed this match fiercely. I had learned that this brilliant scholar had a penchant for beating his wife. His first wife, who had followed him for over a decade, raised in his household like a servant girl from childhood, was beaten to death by his hand. At the time, I had chosen a poor scholar named Chenli for Lu Yunjin instead. Chenli was of humble birth but gentle, with outstanding talent, pupil of a great teacher, surrounded by promising peers. His prospects were bright. But because I had made the decision to marry her into poverty, Lu Yunjin had hated me to the bone. She never ceased to provoke, to sow discord within the residence. For the sake of power, she even climbed onto the crown prince's bed, urging her brother to devote himself to the prince's cause. And what was the result? The crown prince failed. The entire family was condemned. She was beaten to death. Had she died earlier, perhaps I would not have been exiled. The next day, I summoned Lu Yunjin to review the dowry list. The Lu family was now a hollow shell, incapable of granting her assets as dowry. Fortunately, Yunkan had always scorned commerce. What she wanted was nothing more than gold, jewels, fine clothes. Sister-in-law, I still want a set of fine rosewood furniture. Yes, of course. Steward, purchase it at once. Seeing me agree to everything, Lu Yunjin beamed, her eyes narrowing with joy. She opened her mouth like a lion. Jinhua Hall has just acquired a set of exquisite agate jewelry. Buy it. Go place the deposit today, and put it on the household's account. Clutching the dowry list, Lu Yunjin left satisfied. Once she was gone, the household accounts showed less than 50,000 taels remaining. The old madam was pleased with my actions, even sending her own nursemaid to reward me with delicate pastries. Lulu and I ate while sighing. How kind the old madam is, squandering all of her own ancestral property just to prepare her daughter's dowry. What is there to be grateful for? Since the old madam was so benevolent, how could I allow her to suffer a loss? She had just turned 50, keeping widowhood for many years. Yet with her pampered life, her looks were still lush, charming. I ordered Lulu to veil her face, ready a plain carriage, and head straight for Shuiyun Pavilion. This establishment was famed for its peerless courtesan boys, rosy lips, white teeth, faces like jade, a crowd of handsome youths delightful to behold. I selected two, skilled in both song and dance, and asked, I will redeem you. In 1 year you will be freed. Will you agree? Their eyes shone, nodding eagerly. I summoned the madam of the house, threw down 20,000 taels, and took them away. Once dressed in servant garb, they were placed directly into the old madam's courtyard, with my careful instruction. The old madam enjoys music. Sing for her when idle. If she is pleased, you will be richly rewarded. At the homecoming banquet for Lu Yunjin, the old madam's face glowed, her smile radiant, as though 20 years younger. The Marquis, however, grew more haggard by the day, while Yuancho looked drained of vitality, his complexion wan, his eyes lifeless, father and son both seemed worn to the bone. Lu Yunjin clung close to Li Jing, laughing and chatting, flaunting their harmony as husband and wife. Only concubine two wore a face of grief and resentment, resembling a chaste widow. Since the arrival of the 3 new concubines, the Marquis had not stepped into her room once. The Marquis household now brimmed with concubines, so many that even a banquet table could scarcely seat them all. I calculated we would soon need a larger table, for the family's reunions. After the meal, Lu Yunjin grasped my hand, smiling brightly. Thank you, sister-in-law, for arranging such a fine marriage for me. I patted her hand gently, my voice tender. It is all your own fortune. You chose well. Indeed, it was her own choice. Later, if she were beaten, she had only herself to endure it. She could not return to lay blame at my door. Once she departed, I adorned Lulu beautifully and took her to Scholar Chen's home. In my past life, this poor scholar Chen Li rose swiftly, first promoted thrice for his achievements in flood control, later favored by the emperor himself for protecting the royal carriage. He became a trusted confidant at court. How could I possibly let such fat meat fall into another's mouth? The moment I met Madame Chen, I drew a land deed from my sleeve and slid it before her. A small token of goodwill, I hope Madame will accept. It was a 5-room estate, larger than the Marquis residence itself, located just outside the imperial city. The Chen family, long impoverished, had lived in a cramped courtyard on the outskirts. Madame Chen was stunned, stammering. We dare not accept. I immediately pressed Lulu forward, presenting her. This is my sworn sister, Lulu, just turned 18, still unwed. If the Chen family is willing to join with the Lin household, besides this estate I will add 18 chests of dowry. That very day, Madame Chen sealed the marriage. Leaving the Chen household, Lulu remained dumbstruck, hardly able to recover. Foolish girl. Do you not understand yet? Your mistress has nothing but money. Money cannot be taken to the grave. Better to heap it upon you than waste it on those wretches. Meanwhile, silver in the Marquis residence drained like water. Without my restraint, the household squandered extravagantly, each one spending as if devouring my dowry. Within 3 months, less than 10,000 taels remained. During this time, I received a letter from Lulu's elder brother in Duyang. According to the midwife, by certain signs of birth, it was confirmed that my true daughter still lived, raised now in a wealthy family there. I was overjoyed, longing to run at once to see her. Yet I knew, the time was not yet right. As expected, my dutiful son Lu Yuanqiu began his antics again. His teacher from the academy came to resign. I had paid dearly to bring this scholar from Jiangnan. Today, with clasped hands, he sighed. Your son drifts daily in a daze, no better than rotten wood. I can no longer teach him. I beg leave to return home. On hearing this, Concubine 2 dragged Lu Yuanqiu to apologize. In mere days he had grown thinner, dark as a monkey. Those 2 bed servants of his had learned well, at this rate, they would soon drain him dry. Imitating his father's stubbornness, Yuanqiu lifted his head and declared, Mother, your son has no talent for study. Books are wasted effort. Better I seek another path. I smiled and nodded. Yuanqiu speaks true. 360 trades, any can bring success. Master, stay for lunch. I will have a carriage prepared for your journey. Yuanqiu stared, incredulous. Mother, you mean it. In my past life, I fretted endlessly over his studies. At every excuse of melancholy, every refusal to read, I indulged him, straining to keep his candle burning. This is true, truer than gold. You are not one for books, and I will not force you. I ordered the steward to bring the remaining silver notes of the household and pressed them into his hands. Yuanqiu, take this first. Tomorrow, I will gather another 20,000 taels for you. See if you can start a trade, find your own livelihood. At once, Yuanqiu collapsed to his knees with a thud, tears streaming. Mother, you still love me most. Thank you, Mother. Thank you. The teacher was so enraged he slammed his teacup onto the ground, sleeves flaring as he stormed out. Utterly hopeless. This household has gone mad. Steward, prepare a carriage to see Master off, I called quickly. At last, Concubine 2 could not restrain herself. She burst into tears, wailing. Lin Yuanjun, you've gone insane. Do you mean to kill Yuanqiu? At his age, if he doesn't study, what else can he do? Besides squandering the family wealth, what does he know? I turned to her slowly, lips curling. That too, woman, stop cursing your own child. I believe in Yuancho. Lu Yuancho ignored her entirely, clutching the silver notes with glee as he left. Concubine 2 collapsed onto the floor, pounding her fists and crying as if heaven itself had wronged her. I could not help but laugh. Indeed, every mother worries only for her own. In truth, that 2 woman understood the importance of education. In my past life, to curry favor with Lu Yuancho, she covered for him when he skipped lessons, even egged him on to defy me, praising him as a genius of trade. But now that I truly let him pursue business, she wept as if the sky had fallen. Truly ill-omened. She might cry herself to death and back again, but the Marquis and the old madam did not spare her a glance. Their quarters were lively with other matters, they had no time for such trifles. As for me, I was busy arranging another 20,000 taels for Yuancho. I summoned the steward. Take the deed to the ancestral residence of the Marquis household. Pawn it at Jean Man Hall, see how much silver they will give. Say we need time to move out, so they may lower the price if they wish. The steward recoiled, horrified, stammering. Madam. That is the ancestral estate. If our forebears knew beneath the yellow springs, their wrath would shake the earth. I smiled lightly, my tone airy. Do not breathe a word. Enroll your son in the White Deer Academy, and leave this matter to me. At that, the steward's face changed instantly. He bowed repeatedly. Madam oversees the household. All is at your command. The ancestral residence was finally pawned for 100,000 taels. At once I sent 20,000 into Lu Yuancho's hands. This Marquis household, there is nothing left to cherish. My own courtyard was never quiet. A few days later, a servant rushed in with news. Madam, the old madam is unwell. Her belly is swollen, she is often nauseous. I sipped my tea calmly. If the old madam is unwell, then call a physician. Why report to me? The physician has been summoned, the servant stammered, but he said the illness is complicated. He insists madam must come. When I arrived, the physician motioned to speak in private. In the cool pavilion he leaned close, lowering his voice. Congratulations, madam. There will soon be another addition to the family. The old madam is more than 4 months pregnant. The implication was blatant, he wanted hush money. I stared coldly, coughed once, then raised my voice to a piercing cry. Charlatan. Fraud. How could the old madam be with child? You dare slander her. Guards. Drag this quack outside at once. Throw him out. The servants obeyed. He was hauled away, denied both silver and dignity. Purple with rage, he planted himself at the gate of the Marquis estate, shouting. I did not misdiagnose. The old madam is indeed with child. If you don't believe me, summon another physician. The Marquis household bullies the poor. You won't even pay for consultation. A crowd quickly gathered, murmuring in amusement. Meanwhile, the old madam locked herself in her chambers, weeping, refusing to see me. Very well, if she did not wish to see my face, I had nothing to do but return to my quarters, sipping tea and reading storybooks at ease. When the Marquis returned from court and saw the scene, he panicked, shoving a pouch of silver into the doctor's hands to shut him up. The moment he stepped through the doors, I cut him off before he could speak. Marquis, why waste silver on such a rogue? He claims your mother is with child, what a farce. Your father has been gone nearly 20 years, and your mother is near 50. How could she possibly conceive? The Marquis shook with fury, pointing at me, words catching in his throat. You. He could not finish half a sentence before choking with rage. Shoving me aside, he stormed straight into the old madam's quarters. The next morning, as I was having breakfast, Lulu rushed in to report. Madam, last night the Marquis raged in the old madam's courtyard until midnight, changing 3 physicians in succession. It seems she truly is with child. The Marquis flew into a fury, smashing everything in sight. Today he even claimed illness and refused to attend court, saying he has no face left to show anyone. I pulled her down to sit beside me, calmly savoring my meal as I smiled for her to continue. They said the Marquis ordered medicine for the old madam, but she refused to drink. He's already sent for the eldest daughter to persuade her. It must be an abortifacient, I said slowly. The old madam clings to Buddhism, she cannot bring herself to kill a life. She could not bear to abort, yet in my past life she had no qualms watching me starve to death without once stepping out to see me. The servants sent to fetch Lu Yunjin waited an entire day, but she never returned. The first-rank scholar merely sent word. Madam is unwell, not fit to travel. Another day she will visit. Indeed, it had been 4 or 5 months since her bridal banquet. She likely had already been beaten until she could not leave the house. Unable to wait for his sister, the Marquis personally forced the old madam to drink the medicine. That night her sobbing echoed without cease. Yet the Marquis, as though nothing had happened, caroused with his 3 beauties until he collapsed drunk as mud. While he lay insensate, I slipped into his study to search for proof of his collusion with the crown prince. At last, beneath a couch and tea table in his chamber, I uncovered a secret compartment filled with their letters. In the latest, he had pledged boldly. The inner household of mine holds ample wealth. I can devote all to aid your highness's great endeavor. Fortunately, the letter had not yet been sent. I fed it to the flames at once. Dog of a man. If you wish to die, die alone, do not drag me down with you. Blessings never come twice, but disasters arrive together. Before the Marquis even sobered, enforcers from the gambling house dragged Lu Yuanchou to the gates to collect a debt. So, after seeking work for several days, he found every trade either poorly paid or too tiresome, until he discovered gambling was the fastest road to fortune. He took the silver I gave him straight to the tables. Not only did he lose it all, he racked up another 50,000 taels in debt. How convenient. The accounts of the Marquis household just happened to hold the same amount, exactly 50,000. The gamblers declared if the debt was not repaid, they would cut off one of his hands. Concubine too, frantic with motherly love, collapsed at my skirts once more, clutching my leg and bawling. Madam, save Yuanchou. He is the only bloodline of the Marquis house. In my past life I never realized, this woman truly loved nothing more than dropping to her knees to weep. Perhaps in her former life she had been some 4-legged creature. I kicked her away with disgust. Enough of your wailing, it's driving me mad. Very well, I'll pay. I ordered the steward to bring the household coffer. From it I drew 50,000 in notes and handed them over. Lu Yuanchou slumped pale and shaking into a chair, terror etched on his face. Meanwhile, Song Ruer copied Concubine 2's posture, collapsing to her knees with tears shining in her eyes. Husband, you mustn't gamble again. Tomorrow let us return to the academy, study quietly, live properly. But Lu Yuanchou, regaining himself, saw her bedecked in gold and pearls, hair bristling with jeweled pins. Fury flared. He raised his hand and slapped her hard across the face. A peasant wench dares control me. Blind fool that I was, to marry such a wretched bringer of ruin. So much for true love. Men can never be relied upon. Even if you are the bright moon in his heart, the moment you lose your value, a single displeasure is enough for him to raise his hand and strike you without mercy. Lu Yuanchou's eyes reddened as he crawled to my feet, voice trembling in plea. Mother, mother. I was only unlucky this once. Give me just a little more silver, and I will surely rise again like Mount Dongshan. I looked into his desperate eyes, then down at the coffer holding only a few pitiful coppers. I could not give, truly, I could not. The Marquis household was bled dry. I was powerless. Song Ruer and that 2 women sobbed so loudly they finally woke the Marquis. He staggered into the hall, eyes bloodshot, roaring at the sight. Lin Yuanjun. You shameless, useless woman. My mother, my son, you've managed them into this disgrace. Is this your way of running a household? I lowered my head, speaking softly. Indeed, I am incompetent, unworthy of the Marquis. If you are dissatisfied, then let us dissolve this marriage. Each to our own path. Dissolve. In your dreams. You are unfilial to elders, you failed to teach our son. I should cast you aside, not release you. Clever scheme. If he used the 7 grounds of dismissal, then my dowry, all that vast wealth, would remain with the Marquis estate, ensuring their glory endured. I led him into the inner chamber and handed him a sealed packet. He opened it, and his face turned ashen, voice shaking. You, vile woman. What do you mean by this? Inside were his letters with the crown prince. I spoke evenly. If you agree to dissolution, these letters will be returned. If not. I smiled, eyes sharp as blades. I will take them straight to the magistrate and strike the wooden drum, accusing you of treasonous collusion. The Marquis trembled, his Adam's apple bobbing as he hesitated. The crown prince's matter was deadly serious. Yet if he yielded to divorce, he could not stomach losing my dowry. Best of all would be if I died within the household, then all would remain his. I sneered, voice cold. Marquis, last month I summoned 10 shadow guards from Jiangnan. You cannot touch me. You have only one choice, dissolve this marriage. With that, I flicked my hand and toppled the teacup from the table. Swish. An arrow whistled through, embedding itself in the beam above. The Marquis blanched, legs giving out beneath him, collapsing in drunken terror. All right, all right. No more. I agree. Time was pressing, delay was dangerous. I hauled the spiritless man to his feet and ordered the steward to ready a carriage. At once, we rode to the yamen. There, with all formalities completed, my ties to the Marquis estate were severed. When I prepared a villa for Lulu, I purchased another of equal size right next door. Then I set my 10 shadow guards to their new role, house movers. Lulu checked the dowry list against my private ledgers, commanding servants as chest after chest of jewels and gold were carried out in a grand procession. Ancient trees, ornamental rocks, fine hardwood furnishings, even the medicinal herbs from the kitchen, all belonged to my private treasury, not the Marquis estate. Not a single item was left behind, even the trees were dug up and carried away. Watching my wealth restored in full, I felt a lightness I had not known in years. As for the Marquis residence, once again it was as I had found it on my wedding day, shabby, impoverished, barely retaining a shred of face. I handed the ledgers of debt back to the Marquis. He scarcely glanced at them, relief only washing over him when I returned his letters to the Crown Prince. With banners flying, I marched out of the estate. As I left, that 2 woman and Song Ruer watched me go, faces glowing with hope for their future. No doubt they already imagined themselves ascending as mistress of the house, reveling in luxury. Very well then, let them manage it all, and see who weeps first. Only 1 month remained before Lulu's wedding. I prepared her ceremony with care, after which I would set out for Duyang to find my daughter. Freed from the Marquis estate, Lulu and I lived leisurely. We strolled when we wished, visited tea-houses, drank fine brews, listened to operas. Sometimes, by chance, I overheard the common folk gossiping about the Marquis household. A family of nothing but villains. The old matron at 50 years old keeps a boy toy and is even pregnant. The Marquis brings home 3 courtesans as concubines. The heir gambled away everything, until the principal wife stormed off in fury. What disgrace! 7 or 8 days of peace passed before the Marquis himself came storming to my gate, dragging a few battered servants. It turned out Jean Manhall had come to reclaim their collateral, and only then did he realize the entire Marquis estate had been mortgaged away. Panicked, he scoured the ledgers, only to discover every ancestral holding was gone, nothing left but a few coppers rattling in a coffer. That night, all his concubines packed and fled. Now, he demanded an explanation from me. I sent word through a servant. All the wealth of the Marquis estate was squandered on the Liu family. Not once did I spend a single coin. You destroyed your own house with your own hands, what has that to do with me? If you make trouble again, I'll summon the magistrate. With guards at my gate, the Marquis dared not force his way in. He could only gnash his teeth and roar from the street. Lin woman. Venomous woman. You have ruined the legacy of my ancestors. I ignored him entirely and instead handed 100 tales to a storyteller at the tea house, instructing him to recount in detail how the Marquis squandered his ancestral fortune, so the whole capital might enjoy the tale. The Marquis had long clung to the Crown Prince's faction, convinced he held the prince's favor. Boldly, he petitioned the prince to redeem the family estates pawned at Jean-Man Hall. But his endless pestering only angered the Crown Prince, who used him as a pawn. Soon, a memorial was slipped to court denouncing him. With the Marquis household's reputation already reeking like rot, His Majesty stripped him of his post, revoked his title, and ordered confiscation of all property. But the Marquis estate was already owned by Jean-Man Hall. Nothing remained. At last, the entire family crowded into a rented hovel. Most pitiful of all were the officials sent to seize their property. When they arrived, the landlord merely said coldly, "These things are mine, you cannot touch them." So the yamen runners could only strip the women of their hairpins and trinkets to turn in, thus concluding the swiftest confiscation in history. The Liu clan huddled together, wailing. It's over. Completely over. Nothing left at all. Later, I heard people say the old madam never again dared step outside, unable to endure the stairs. That too woman could not bear her fall from comfort. Driven mad, she rambled to anyone who would listen, how she was the true wife, how she had entered the household earlier than the Lin woman, how the Marquis had doted on her, how it was she who raised her son as the rightful heir, how she was the true mistress of the Marquis estate. But no one believed her babble. Everyone shunned her. The Marquis, at least literate, set up a stall in the street, eking out a living writing letters for commoners. Liu Yuanqiu, ruined by his own excess, wasted in body, too weak for heavy work, was reduced to running errands at a shop. Father and son barely scraped together enough to live. Mother, someone whispered, that Lin woman will surely die tonight, won't she? Silence. After sending Lu off in glory, I gathered my guards and set out for Duyang in search of my daughter. I had imagined she might be a gentle young lady of refinement, or perhaps a modest, tender girl. But when I truly saw her, I realized she was nothing like I had imagined. She sat firmly on the main seat of a silk shop's hall, sipping tea at ease, scolding the shop boy with commanding authority. When I saw her face, so like mine it was as though carved from the same mold, tears welled in my eyes. She extended a handkerchief to me. I heard you are my mother. Yes, I choked out. A useless mother, who let them switch you at birth. From now on, I will make it up to you. My daughter suddenly laughed out. There is nothing you can make up to me. Do you know why they call me Zhang Bancheng? Half of Duyang belongs to me. If ever you lack silver, just tell me. Wealth and glory, in some strange way, had still been passed down. The end.